Welcome to this episode number 18 of the Net Effect Career Conversations and Connections. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to be with us this afternoon and enjoy this incredible conversation that Travis and I are going to have. I've been waiting all week long for this. I'm the host and director of the ABF Career Alliance, Robin Jones. This is, as I said, the Net Effect, and welcome Travis. But before we get started, I want to do a little bit of housekeeping and make sure that everybody can participate. So open up your Q&A button. You see the little tab that says Q&A, and type in your name for me and where you're from. Let everybody know. Hi, Jan. Thank you, Sally. Appreciate you guys being there. Looks like it's working. Hi, Lane. I'm not sure what's happening with Facebook Live. I've tried 4 or 5 times and it keeps giving me an error message. Any help you have on that, just text me. I appreciate that. Hey, Trev, glad you could make it. Thank you. Good. So looks like everything's working. If you have any questions or your download isn't working, can't open the Q&A, make sure that you have the Zoom application, and that will help. Chat has been disabled. All communication is going to be working through Q&A. It's open so folks can see it. So if anybody has any questions, just be sure and hit me in the Q&A, and I'll be glad to, I'm going to be monitoring that as we move forward. So without further ado, let me introduce this young man who is the creator of this wonderful book, Live Yes, and here is my copy right here. As you can see, Trav, I've been bookmarking it, and I love it. It's been a fabulous read. It's just had some full of great ideas. Travis is currently the leadership and team dynamics coach for the U.S. men's national soccer team. He served as leadership coach at Florida IMG Academy for over 2 years, where he worked with thousands of athletes, including the U17 U.S. national team, NFL, and NBA combine players, as well as youth, college, and professional athletes in all sports. For the last 5 years, he has worked with numerous programs, including the University of Georgia football, MSU women's soccer, the Cincinnati Reds, Miami Marlins, New York Yankees, Chicago Cubs, and Tampa Bay Rays. That's quite a list there, my friend. That's pretty awesome.
Just don't fact check them. Just don't fact check
That's
them.
right. Yeah. And additionally, Travis has been performing for over 20 years as an improvisational comedian. I think I got that word right.
Yeah, you got it.
He uses the principles and activities of improvisation to teach leadership, mental skills, which I can use lots of help with that, teamwork, and the tools of high-performing cultures. In 2016, he wrote this book that I've referred to, three words for Getting Unstuck: Live Yes and. He has served as a program practitioner for the CedarS Camps for many years, of which Travis and I did that together 1 year, and worked at the Mother Church in Boston for over 5 years. Graduated from Penn College and worked as a house parent at the upper school, Principia School, for 3 years. So welcome, Mr. Thomas. So
Robin, good to be. Thank you so much. And hello, everyone. So humbled and honored for you guys to be here on a Friday evening or early evening, depending on where you are, to actually have to sit and listen to me. And so I will try to make it as hopefully relevant and engaging as possible, but really honored, Robin, with the Albert Baker Fund, to have me here. Organization that obviously I'm a huge fan of, all the wonderful work that the Albert Baker Fund does. And so this is a treat for me. And I really just hope that we can talk about some things that will be beneficial to everyone who's joining us tonight.
Well, let's get rolling. So Travis has really had a remarkable career journey. Really interesting. And I don't know if you'd agree with that statement or not, Travis. But when I look at it, I think it's awesome and remarkable. So, but tell us about this African proverb that you've put up here to kind of kick this off and why it's so meaningful to you.
Yeah, well, Robin, you and I were kind of kicking around this event a few weeks ago, and we had a different title for the event. And just as you and I were talking about some of the key ideas For tonight, I shared with you this quote, "Leap and the net will appear." And this has been a mantra, an idea that not only I have been living, but my wife, Hollister, that many of you know, and our 3 kids. This is really a mantra that we've really tried to embrace. And I say embrace because it's been really difficult at times. You know, I would say the last, I would say 17 years of my journey, my professional journey, has been super uncertain. That's what we'll talk more about, you know, the bulk of tonight. And so in that uncertainty, you know, something maybe we're all kind of dealing with as a planet right now, but amidst that uncertainty, there's been this spirit of real trust and faith, and this ability to leap into the unknown, or should I say what appears to be the unknown, maybe from a mortal standpoint, and trusting and knowing that that net will appear. And again, growing up in Christian Science and practicing Christian Science and having that spiritual background, kind of having an idea of what that net means to me or means to our family. And so the fact that this is the net effect, it just felt perfect as you and I were talking to really kind of use that as the foundation for our talk here. This idea, because so many of us are dealing with this idea of how do we move forward with so much uncertainty, whether it's school, career, relationships, etc. But leap and the net will appear. So whatever that means for you, and that's really what an improviser's mindset is all about, is moving forward into uncertainty, but having a mindset and having a skill set that allows us to navigate that in a powerful and hopefully peaceful way.
Well, I'm curious about this whole improvisation journey that you started in Boston.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm wondering if someone gave you a step-by-step map of how to get there and navigate this these steps that you were making and pursuing this passion that you and love that you had.
Yeah. And so it really did. It started with passion. You know, Hollister and I, we were living in Boston, young. You know, we were, pretty newly married, no kids. We were both working for the mother church, and I had never done any improv comedy, but had seen it over the years, and I was really just curious about how do they do that. So we actually happened to be in town first weekend in Boston. A theater had just opened. We went to a show, and I was just blown away by the talent of the performers and how they could create stories out of nothing. And so I called the training center. They had started a training center, and I called the training center. I said, hey, I want to take a class. And so I signed up for a level 1 class, 8 weeks long, and once a week. And it really, Robin, that first or second class, I mean, I was just hooked, because that's where I was learning the foundation, the principles of what makes improvisation possible and how it works. And that laid the groundwork. At the time, I wasn't trying to be a performer. I loved going into that space and what it allowed you to do, as far as, dropping preconceived notions and dropping judgment and letting go of baggage and just getting up on stage and playing with adults playing again. And then how to play with one another in a collaborative, creative way, which is what improvisation is all about. And the more I got into it, so I went from level 1 all the way through level 6. There were 6 levels in the training center, and the theater was expanding. They needed a touring company cast that I auditioned for and then made. And then really over the next 2 or 3 years, I sort of worked my way up, and I was eventually on the main stage cast, doing shows 3 or 4 nights a week. In front of sold out audiences and having a lot of fun and just learning a lot. And when my wife and I decided to move to Florida in 2003, first time, I was still working for the mother church. And then when that came to an end, I knew that I wanted to kind of take the essence and the principles of improvisation and apply them in a different type of way. And that has been the journey ever since. And so that led me into, it first led me into tremendous debt. And then along the way, it's led to working in personal development, getting into life coaching and getting certifications in life coaching, which led me into professional coaching and executive coaching, which led me into leadership coaching, again, the corporate side of things. So working on the personal side of things, the corporate side of things, and then getting back to my original passion in life, which was sports. And then ending up at IMG Academy, like Robin mentioned, which is one of the premier sports academies in the world, as a leadership coach. And then, 5 years ago, deciding that I wanted to kind of do all of this on my own and starting Live Yes And that's what I've been doing for the last 5 years. Like Robin mentioned, working with a lot of professional and college sports teams. I still work full-time with a youth soccer club in Florida. And then most recently, like Robin mentioned, as of December this past year, I'm on staff as the leadership and team dynamics coach for the U.S. men's national soccer team, their senior team, that we're getting ready to try to qualify for the next World Cup. But it all started with this curiosity of just wanting to go see an improv show. And a few years later now, wink, wink, a few years later, I've tried to turn it into something different. And so hopefully some of those ideas that I share tonight will be helpful to you all.
Well, I'm curious because in your book, you make this statement. You say there are no mistakes. And I'm thinking, wow, come on, man. I've made plenty of mistakes in my life, right?
Yeah, right.
So help me understand. Maybe that's one of the principal concepts of improv.
It is. Yeah, it is. And so, in improvisation, Robin, so if you and I are doing a scene together, and since there is no script and we're making it up on the spot, there really are no mistakes. Even though what you were trying to do, you may make a mistake, the whole essence of improvisation, actually the best improvisations on stage, and I would argue in life, the best improvisations are the ones that come from a mistake. And so you might make a mistake, but me being your partner on stage, we're going to take your mistake and we're actually going to build off of it in a way that actually makes our scene better. And so as an improviser, you don't beat yourself up for quote unquote making a mistake. You turn that mistake into gold. And so if you take that and you apply that to your life, yes, have we all made mistakes? We have made mistakes. But is a mistake really a mistake if we have grown from it and learned from it and have turned it into a positive in our life? I would argue that it's not really a mistake. It wasn't what you were intending to do in the moment. And that's how I kind of, classify a mistake. A mistake is when I was trying to do X and Y happened. And so, I didn't get the result of what I was trying for, but that doesn't mean it's a lost cause. You look at what happened and you say, okay, well, what happened and what can I do with that? And, I think there's those of us on the call today that have probably had complete career changes because of a quote unquote mistake, or you may be with a different life partner right now because of a quote unquote mistake. And so if you embrace this idea that there are no mistakes, if you're constantly moving forward and collaborating and learning from every decision that you make, you're always moving forward. And so you're less afraid now of failing or screwing up because you see them not as an intentional thing, but as a necessary part of your experience. And I would also say as a performance coach, it is a necessary part of gaining any type of excellence, is this idea of making mistakes and failing, not because you're trying to, but you're stretching yourself outside of your comfort zone. And by the nature of stretching ourselves outside of our comfort zone, and no matter what we do, we're going to make mistakes, but then we're going to learn from them, make fewer mistakes, become a master in it, and then stretch ourselves outside of our comfort zone again. So that's a huge, huge principle in improvisation, that there's no mistakes. So why am I going to beat myself up for what I did in the past when I can probably connect the dots and see where I am today wouldn't have happened had it not been for that mistake?
And I think that it's a wonderful, I love it. I think it's a great concept. And I wonder if you might share how that might have applied in a career situation, because so many people have been furloughed, so many different things that are happening. Students who are graduating, thought they were going to have a job. Now they're not going to have a job. So even though, and there's this constant debate about this or that. And so even though some of these things might be out of our control, does that kind of fall in within the same principle? Does it fall into that? One must say yes to reality, as you say in your book.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and again, just to open up that idea a little bit, Robin, of what the yes and is. And so clearly my organization is called Live Yes And. And so yes and is kind of key in all this, because yes and is the basis of improvisation. All improvisation is possible because of those two words, yes and. I didn't create that as a mantra. That is improvisation 101. And so you talk to anyone who's been in acting or improvisation, they'll be, oh yeah, it's all yes and. And so I added the live because, well, I think you can apply this mindset to every aspect of your life. And so yes and on stage, again, Robin, if you and I are doing a scene, you and I have agreed that
I would like that, by the way.
We will.
Yes, I think that would be a lot of fun.
Let's do it. Robin, you ready?
Yep, let's go.
Okay, awesome. All right, so Robin, which is funny for everyone because we didn't talk about doing this, but we're going to do it now. We're going to improvise. Robin, you and I are going to tell a story. And so what's going to happen, Robin, is we're going to tell a story. And no matter what I say to you, I'm going to give you an idea. And all you have to say is yes and to it. The yes is you're going to accept my idea, and you're going to build off of the idea. And then whatever you say back to me, I'm going to say yes to your idea and build off of the idea. And we're just going to go back and forth and tell our story like that. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So whatever I say, you say yes and to. Whatever you say, I say yes and to. And so we'll just talk about, we'll pretend, Robin, that you and I have some weekend plans that we're talking about. And we're just going to yes and each other. So I'll give you the first idea, Robin. Robin, I am so excited about this weekend.
Yes, and I can't wait till we get in our boat.
Yes, and you and I are going big sport fishing out in the Atlantic.
Yes, and I've never been sport fishing. I need a rig, but I know that you can help me with that.
Yes. I'm going to bring 2 professional poles and a giant spear in case we see a whale.
Well, yes, and I'll bring my diving gear. I was just talking about that the other day with someone. I haven't been in the ocean in a long time. So I'll bring my diving gear and my spear fisher.
Yes, and I've got a shark cage, so we can get the diving gear, go down into the shark cage, and swim with sharks.
And I would love to swim with the sharks. I'm scared to death of them, but I would love to be in that cage with you and maybe your friend.
Yes, I'm bringing my friend who is the world-class free diver, who is fantastic at handling sharks.
Well, yes, and I've been with a free diver, and he could dive 45 feet.
Yes, and when you get courageous enough, you're going to leave the shark cage and go swim in the open waters with them.
Yes, and I might actually meet Aquaman down there and have a little fun with him.
Yes, I heard he's your second cousin.
Well, yes, he is, and he's married to my friend or my cousin Mary.
That kind of sounds fishy. All right,
well,
see, you always end it on a bad pun. There you go, Rob. You ended on a bad pun. So that's improvisation. So whether that was good improv or not, I don't know, Robin. But the whole idea is, and by the way, you did a fantastic job because you yes-anded everything. So that principle of yes and is you and I are telling a story collaboratively. We have agreed as actors that no matter what you say, I'm going to say yes and. No matter what I say, you're going to say yes and. So there are no wrong answers. There's no mistakes. No matter what you said it, so it's real. So I'm going to collaborate with it. No one ever said, no, we're not going fishing. We're going skydiving. Well, if that no becomes a block that stops our story from being in collaboration with one another. Nor did either one of us ask questions because there was no reason to ask a question because you and I owned 50% of the story. And asking a question would have just been deferring action to me. So by making statements, we furthered the story along and we knew that our partner had our back one yes and at a time. So that's all improv is. And so the actors might not always be verbally saying yes and, but they're operating from that principle of I'm out here to be in collaboration with my partner. Well, Robin, if you take that idea and you apply it to any aspect of your life, to the pandemic, to your health, to your career, to your relationships. I like to say that you cannot progress until you say yes. And so yes to me is agreement or acceptance. And so are we in the middle of a pandemic right now? Yeah. Yep. Okay, we are. If I'm in denial of it and I don't want to face it, well, then I'm kind of like just putting my head in the sand. So I can't make any headway. I can't make any ground. I can't make any progress until I say yes. This is the situation. And I'm also appreciative of talking to an audience of Christian Scientists where this isn't about accepting the mortal lie or accepting the mortal picture. but it is accepting that there is a challenge that we're being faced with. So that is the yes. The yes is I see the challenge that we're dealing with, but the and is how we respond. The and is where we have power. And so spiritually, I can always respond with a powerful spiritual yes and. Well, let's say I lost my job in this pandemic. And I'll be really honest with everybody. You know, my main work is I go to companies, I go to sports teams. I'm a speaker. I'm a speaker that travels on the road. And so even though I'm doing Zoom events and things like that right now, my livelihood has just been decimated. So yeah, that's the reality. I can't change that right now. So yes, all of my events have been canceled outside of a few online events. And I'm going to use this time as an opportunity to really get in and understand Zoom and online events. And I'm going to use this as an opportunity to take a lot of my content and put them into an online platform where I can offer services online. And so it's this yes and approach to, I can't change the pandemic, but I can be in collaboration with it. And so we can apply that to every aspect of our life. If I'm an athlete and I'm a soccer player and my right foot is great, but my left foot is stinky, I have to say, yeah, my left foot stinks, and I'm going to put some extra time in to make it better. If I'm in a relationship that's not healthy, I have to say, yes, this relationship is not healthy, and I'm going to call a Christian Science practitioner, and we're going to look into marriage counseling, and maybe this is not the right relationship for me after all. So it's about this. I love to think of it, Robin. It's radical acceptance and it's radical collaboration with reality.
I wonder, I mean, I know you work with athletes and sometimes I'm an athlete. Sometimes we're a little thick-headed, you know, we get a little bit, we kind of see ourselves a certain way and others see us a different way. And sometimes those two don't really work together, right?
Yeah.
And I wonder, and so we have this issue of denial,
Yeah,
you know,
rather
than
it's
do you see that often? Am I kind of like the norm,
yes,
or
I
am
do.
I the exception?
You're not unusual. You're not the exception to the rule. I mean,
yeah, good.
One of the areas that I do predominantly in my work is this idea of we talk about what collaboration looks like. That's what, improvisation is all about collaboration. Well, I would argue that relationships are all about collaboration. I would argue that any business or corporate team is about collaboration. I would argue that any sports team is about collaboration. What happens is, we could have a longer discussion on society and maybe how our society kind of favors a certain kind of mindset, which might be competitive in an unhealthy way. And so we can become conditioned. We're not born this way. We can become conditioned to look at every situation through a competitive lens and instead of a collaborative lens. And so one of the ideas I share and do a lot of activities around in my work is the skill of empathy. And the idea of if Robin, if you have one perspective and I have another perspective, my goal should not be to convince you that my perspective is better than yours and that you're wrong or an idiot, right? Or vice versa. My goal should be, I care and value you and respect you. I want to understand where you're coming from. And if I show up mentally that way, there's a good chance that you're going to feel that and want to understand where I'm coming from. Well, now we can actually be in collaboration with one another, even if we don't agree with one another, right? In fact, some great research has been done. Google did this project called Project Aristotle, and they found that the highest performing teams in the corporate world, in the sports world, the highest performing teams have the highest levels of psychological safety. Well, what is psychological safety? Psychological safety is basically high levels of trust, respect, and value. Now, I also want to say, don't mistake that with kindness, because we can all be in environments where we're kind of kind to one another, but we're not always honest and authentic with one another. So to be in an environment built on trust, respect, and value, it actually means that you can be much more have much more candor and honesty because you have put in that time and energy to really, really trust and respect one another. It's not about just saying the nice, safe thing. It's about, I can be much more honest with you, but that takes a lot of work. And so I can probably count on one hand the number of relationships in my life where I have that level of safety, where I can be that honest. So it's really hard to create those relationships, but those tend to be the highest performing teams and the highest performing relationships. But that takes a whole lot of empathy and patience and compassion and humility. And I think those are qualities that obviously we know are great human qualities, but they're also great leadership qualities as well. And those have been kind of hallmark ideas that I share when I go in and do these talks.
Well, I wonder, in the work that you do, you talk about curiosity and the importance of curiosity. And how do you think that might relate to careers and career choices? Yeah. And I'm in this one place, but I'm not sure I need to be there. I don't know when to make the change. I don't know where I'm going. I mean, how does curiosity come into that and support a decision making to move forward so that I don't think I'm making a mistake?
Yeah, and that's a great question, Robin, and I love it for this audience as well. And I'm currently coaching. I'm currently teaching a college class twice a week for a university down in Guatemala, UFM in Guatemala. And this is an elective class for college students who are thinking about, they're almost graduates, and it's about designing their life and designing work and their lifestyle so that they're in congruence with one another. And so this idea that we talk about, we're 3 weeks in, but that idea of curiosity, I think, is one of the most important qualities we can have when it comes to not only life, but our career. Because what I get from that, Robin, is that, there is a thread of purpose. There's a thread of purpose that runs through all of the work that I've done. And it's been present in all of the different work that I've done, but I've done lots of different work. And so I've done lots of different work. Some of it was out of desperation. I talked about that debt that I was in. Some of it was out of desperation, but most of it was out of curiosity. And so I've always had a clear idea of the kind of qualities in work that I'm interested in. But as far as needing to have a job that is this specific job and it has to be in this specific industry can be limiting.
Yeah.
And so I think when we're open to being curious and saying, hey, I'm going to try this, right? I don't know if I'm going to like it, but I'm going to try it. Any number of things could happen. You could love it and have a new career. You could hate it and now know that that's no longer an option. You could get in it and hate it, and it opens a door to a different department or a whole different opportunity altogether. You could get in it and love it, but realize actually it's not this so much that I like, but it's this. But there's these infinite amount of possibilities that could happen, but it has to start with curiosity. But if we sit and intellectually try to figure it out without being curious, we're just never going to know. And I think most of us can relate to this idea of so many interesting and unexpected things have happened in our life that we could have never foreseen, but we took that first step. We leaped and the net will appear, but we didn't know what the net was. And we never know what the next net might be, but that curiosity of taking the leap really is the most important step. And then for me and for us on this call, since we are, we're a spiritual group here, is when you have a firm spiritual foundation of ultimately who is caring for you or what is caring for you, it makes it a whole lot easier to leap and follow that curiosity.
Well, I think those are great points, and I love it. When you talk about what's happening today, and your world has changed, obviously. I don't know if your team is on the pitch or not. I don't know what's happening. I know, we got that goal of World Cup coming up.
Yeah.
So you've obviously got some things that you're working with on a day-to-day basis that maybe might be helpful to folks to see how you address it.
Sure. Well, yeah, my work with the national team right now is the players have actually gotten back to playing. They're playing in leagues all over the world.
Oh, good.
So they've been playing, which is great. We now have some dates on the calendar that we'll come together as a team for a camp for a couple weeks in October, and then again in November, and then we kind of get into playing games again. Obviously, all TBA or TBD, to be determined. But we do have some dates, and I've been working virtually with the staff, doing a whole lot of Zoom calls since we went into quarantine. But yeah, it's completely shifted, and so the uncertainty is, you embrace the uncertainty from the standpoint of, there's two things that I think we can control, Robin. I think as people, there's two things we can control. I can control my effort, and I can control my attitude, right? I can't control what my wife does. I can't control my 12-year-old who's making dinner on the other side of the computer right now. I can't control the economy. I can't control my president. I can't control the weather. I can't control this pandemic. All I can control is what's my effort and what's my attitude going to be. And so when we develop routines and habits that we do consistently, what that does is that sets us up that regardless of what is happening to us, we've built a process that, for lack of a better word, makes us kind of bulletproof, because it means that we can handle anything that comes at us based on having good habits and good routines. And so, that's what I help people kind of create their own habits and routines. And it's about consistency, right? It's about consistency. It's you don't get up and pray you don't go and pray one morning for 3 hours and then decide to pray again 3 months from now. Maybe you get up every morning and you pray 10 minutes a day, every day for 10 minutes. Well, that consistency, you're gonna feel the long-term effects of that. And so when it comes to developing habits and routines, to me, it's all about, I'm not a super overly structured person, but I have some habits and routines that are pretty non-negotiable that I know take care of me to allow me to show up consistently, hopefully at my best.
And even though you've had things that, like, your training has stopped, in your speaking engagements may have changed quite a bit. You've obviously been saying yes and moving forward.
Absolutely. And so, yes. So all of these events that I had were supposed to be in person. Some of them postponed, some of them canceled. And I've had to get creative with offering online services, which I have done and am doing, and having to kind of restructure kind of my pricing model and everything like that. But it's an opportunity, right? It's an opportunity. I don't have to like it, but I have to say yes to it. So it's an opportunity to be flexible. It's an opportunity to be adaptable. And just as schools are having to do right now, and our economy is having to do right now, and our camps had to do this summer, it's tragic in many, many ways. But what it's forcing is innovation and creativity, which when we get on the other side of it, whatever that looks like, it has made us better moving forward. Because now we're that much more stronger. We have all these different solutions now at our fingertips that we would not have created had we not been forced to create them. And so with my personal career, I'm having to do that. And like I said, as a result, I've kind of created this online platform, which I wouldn't have created had this not happened. I'm teaching this college course that I just told you about in Guatemala that I would not be teaching had this not happened. Again, which is opening new doors and opportunities for me, working in the world of education, which I wasn't trying to do. And then transitioning my work with the national team, where I was only going to be working with them when we were in person. Well, now I'm working with them for the whole rest of the year, and then hopefully beyond, knock on wood, but at least for the rest of the year. And I'm being able to work for them virtually instead of just in person. And so that comes from saying yes, and you don't have to like it, but you have to say yes and to it.
Well, your top takeaways, run us through those.
Well, the first one, I keep beating like a dead horse. I apologize, which is
It's a good one though. I like it.
It's good. And I realize it's a horrible expression to beat like a dead horse. We shouldn't be beating any horses. But you cannot progress until you say yes. Again, it's this idea. And again, I think growing up in Christian Science blended with these improvisation principles were kind of a perfect mix, a perfect recipe for me, because it's when you infuse the spiritual foundation with this idea of, okay, like, if God's got my back, what can I say yes and to? And so it puts you in a mindset of trusting leaping and letting the net will appear, leaping with skill and leaping with energy and leaping with intention, and then being open, like the point number 2, not being attached to an outcome, not outlining the journey. Good Lord, could I not outline the journey that I've been on for the last 17 years? And so letting that curiosity, having intentions and having goals and having things that you want to do, but really releasing them and letting go, being curious, taking the next step, and then taking the next step, and then taking the next step, trusting that you're being taken care of through love and through God, and just seizing whatever opportunities come along the way. And then the last one, I think, Robin, you and I talked about this, because I know I've gotten the opportunity to coach a lot of young professionals. It's kind of scary for me to say that because I feel like a young professional, but thinking of people who are getting out of college or 20s or 30s and things like that, and starting a new career. But that idea of, so many times I've talked to people and they're like, well, Travis, I don't want to take, like, this is an entry-level job. I've got this degree, or I've got my master's degree.
Right.
This job is beneath me. And I was like, well, maybe, but why don't you get your foot in the door and then prove your worth, right? If you truly are as valuable as you think that your value is, all you got to do is get your foot in the door. And from there, you're going to allow yourself to grow and to shine. But I think that's where that humility piece comes in, where so often, we think that, well, I need this, or I deserve this. And, again, working in the sports world, like I work in, there might be 3,000 applications for an entry-level ticket sales job for someone who wants to work in sports industry. If you can get that job, take that job. Because as we all know, that once you get in the door, that's where you allow your full wholeness and all of your qualities to now be seen, because you're working with people, and those people now know and can see the full you. But they can't see that if you're standing on the outside of that door going, well, this job's beneath me. And so, and again, I think that's that curiosity piece again. Maybe it is a horrible job. Well, go find out. If there's a better opportunity, all right, go take it. But just sitting and waiting for opportunities to grab us, instead of leading with our nose, leading with curiosity, having that inspiration and that spirituality being the motivating force to take that step, and then being open to adjust.
So thinking about approaching people, thinking about conversations with folks, that whole idea of networking, of, we move it to career connections and conversations. How has that been important for you in your career journey?
Oh, tremendously. And I think actually there's a fantastic book out that I would recommend to everybody. It came out this past year. It's called Range. The author's last name is either Eckstein or Epstein. But the book is called Range, and it actually supports that idea of really having a diverse background when it comes to career. And actually with most things, it's supporting this idea. We live in society right now that has been telling us that actually we need to specialize and become so hyper-focused in one area. And the book does a great job of saying, actually, no, it's the people who have a depth and a breadth of a wide experience that actually makes better problem solvers, that makes better professionals in these different industries. And so, I take the work that I do, and there's not a field that I can't take my work and go into and not have it be relevant, because I'm not going into an industry and telling them how to be experts in their industry. I'm going into an industry, and we're talking about relationships, we're talking about mindset, we're talking about teamwork. And the fact that I've worked in all these different areas, from the corporate world to education, to the sports world, to personal development, to being a stage actor, it gives me a deeper and a wider breadth to be able to relate to more people. And so I'm a big believer in having that diversity and that range which also makes us better problem solvers because it allows us to draw on inspiration from so many different places.
Well, I can't believe how fast things go. We haven't even gotten to Q&A, but can you just talk briefly about this particular slide?
Yeah. So you and I were talking about resources for education and certifications, and the whole topic of degrees and certifications and things like that. Are they necessary? When are they necessary? And I don't think there's a right or a wrong answer. I have created kind of a career that's super unique and niche, sometimes too niche. Even though I work as a sports performance coach, I don't have a sports psych degree. Now, maybe that'll hold me back in some environments, but for the most part, it hasn't held me back. I'm a life coach and an executive coach, and I have 2 certifications, but that's also an industry that doesn't necessarily need certifications. And so I think for each of us on the call, that question of, do I need more schooling? Do I need that degree? Do I need certifications? I think it's kind of twofold. It's looking at the industry that you're trying to get into and saying, okay, does this industry, is there kind of a threshold based on a degree, based on a certification? And then make your decision based off of that. And then sometimes too, it's just maybe your curiosity wants, you're interested in going and getting a certification or getting, another degree because you're curious and you want that extra training. That's okay too. But I would say for anybody, there's not a one size fits all answer to that question. And it's just kind of looking at your industry and your own personal taste and seeing what fits best for you.
Well, I have a few questions here that I thought we could wrap up with. This question is from Emma, and we talked about it a little bit, but how do you know when it's time to leave a job and move on? And how do you keep improving when there's no opportunity for promotion?
Yeah, that's a great question, Emma. How do you know when it's time to move on from a job? Let me answer that first. Again, that answer, it's, I have moved on from 2 different jobs. I moved on, it was my choice. I've also been let go, but I moved on by choice from 2 different jobs. Both of the jobs that I left, I did not have another job waiting for me. And so I know that there's a lot of people who are like, well, I can't leave a job until I know that there's another one waiting for me. That's fine if you have that synced up. But again, if I go back to leap and the net will appear, I have had 2 jobs where I had kind of an understanding of how long I would probably be there. And, but again, I didn't want to outline that. And so a lot of it was just kind of feeling where I was at that job. Was I waking up and feeling motivated and inspired every day, which is really important to me. And then from there, just doing a lot of listening and prayer on a day-to-day basis. And with both of those jobs, it became clear to me, and then talking to my wife, I'm kind of like, this is what I'm feeling. I want your opinion. And having both of us go, you know what? Yeah, it's time to move on. It's time to move forward, even if we didn't know what that next step looked like. And trusting, again, trust is so huge. And that's that leap and the net will appear. And so taking that leap of uncertainty again into the unknown, what's it called? The trapeze bar. Hollister, do you remember who the trapeze bar guy was? If you guys Google the trapeze bar song, that's all and read the song or listen to the song, it nails it. It's just beautifully, it's that trust of letting go of one trapeze bar in the air, and you see the other bar coming at you, but you're not guaranteed you're going to get there, but you got to let go in order to get there. And it's such a great analogy that's been super helpful to me. So again, I don't think I've made rash decisions. But making sure for me that the prayer and spiritual intuition has been a part of it. And then
Jennifer,
the second question, I think there's a second part of that, Robin. Was it, how do I stay if I can't get promoted?
So how do you keep improving when there's no opportunity for promotion?
Yeah, I would just say to that, obviously we can improve. We can constantly improve, even if there's no way to get promoted. And that's just more of I like to look at it can we go into work, or can we continue to have a job where we're asking ourselves, what more do I have to learn? And is there an opportunity for me to help others? And so I think the jobs that I had left, obviously I could have stayed and learned more, but I kind of felt like I've learned enough, and I felt ready to move on. And it was less about promotion and more about just feeling like it was the right thing to do.
Jennifer asks, how can you get a team of strong-minded individuals to work as a united team when each one wants to lead and go off on his own?
Yeah, it's a great question. Well, I guess if they want to lead off and go on their own, if they have the ability to do that, they're probably going to do that. If they're not allowed to do that, if you guys, I'm assuming this is a team that has to work together, a strong-minded, strong-willed team that actually has to work together. I can relate to that, definitely in the sports world. Corporate world is not a whole lot different. And I would say that's key, where you're actually going to shine as a leader if you have the ability to consistently show up in that environment as a member of that team, looking for a way to be inclusive and looking for a way to collaborate with other people's ideas. If you are the one that is modeling collaboration and you're modeling empowering others, you become the person that people want to work with. Because who doesn't want to work with someone who is constantly trying to make them look good? In fact, that's, another one of the improv mantras, Robin, that's in the book. And I share this all the time with teams, is as an improviser, there's a mantra that we adhere to before every show. And our mantra is, if Robin and I are doing a show together, my goal is to make Robin look good. And Robin's goal is to make me look good. So we're going to go out there, we're going to improvise. We don't know what's going to happen, but the whole time I'm thinking about Robin and trying to make him look good. I'm celebrating his ideas. I'm yes-anding everything. Robin's doing the same thing to me. And so I don't need to think about my own needs because Robin is taking care of me. Robin doesn't need to think about his needs because I'm taking care of him. And you can just feel the ripple effect that has on a relationship. And all a team is a series of relationships, from the sports field to your marriage, to your corporate team. When you have everyone who's operating from this mindset of, man, my goal is to make my teammate look good, everybody's going to want to be your teammate.
I'd like to be a part of that team. That's a wonderful team.
Well, when you're on those teams, you don't forget. And I haven't been on a ton of them, but I've been on enough to realize how good it feels.
Betsy asks, how can I know to trust when the leap involves the help of others with agendas of their own? How can I know to trust when the leap involves the help of others with agendas of their own?
Okay.
Yeah.
I think I understand where you're coming from with that question. I hope I do. It's a good question. Sure, there's always going to be people in our life, especially family members, where they might have agendas. Not that they're necessarily malicious agendas, but maybe the decision that we make is going to impact them. And just to say that the 2 times that I have left work, I was impacting others. I was impacting my wife and I was impacting my kids, because each job, we changed locations when I left. And clearly when I leave a job, that has a financial impact as well. And so I would say that part of the listening, the prayer and the thinking process is taking all of that into consideration. But at the end of the day, it's listening and following that spiritual intuition, where that yes, others are going to be impacted, but you're at peace from the standpoint that that you'll be able to figure it out. And no matter what arises, that everybody will be fine. And that's been a sort of decisions that my wife and I have had to make probably 3 or 4 times now.
And the final question is from Cole. Cole, what are the top traits that you look for in a player person?
Yeah, top traits. Look for, was it player/person?
Uh-huh. Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. I really don't think there's a huge difference whether we're talking athletics or whether we're talking, the business world or relationships. And I think I probably haven't said it enough, but one of my, I can't remember who said it, but they're like the three most important words a leader can ever say is "I don't know." Three most important words a leader can say is "I don't know." Not "I don't know" from a fearful standpoint, but "I don't know" from a humility standpoint. And I think when a leader is able to model vulnerability, and I don't mean someone who just spews their garbage all over the place, but vulnerability from the standpoint of our society has tended to glorify the leader who pretends to have all the answers, and we know where that usually gets us, compared to the leader who has enough confidence and self-love to be able to say, hey, you know what, I don't have all the answers, but we're going to figure it out together. And I think whether that's to have a player, on a sports team that says, hey, I don't have all the answers, but we're going to figure this out together. And so humble confidence is the way I've described it, Robin. A leader or just a coworker or anybody that has this sense of humble confidence. They're confident in their abilities, but they have the humility to be inclusive of others and to empower others. And, I use this example all the time with the, and this applies to everything, but, this youth soccer club that I'm a part of, the coaches have been trained that when the players come off for a water break or at halftime, first thing the coach asks the players when they come off the field is, so what do you guys think? What are you noticing out there? And so it empowers the players, and it empowers them to think for themselves, and it values their opinion. Instead of them coming off the field and the coach goes, I can't believe you guys are doing this, or you're doing that, and they just tell them what they're doing right or what they're doing wrong, which completely takes away ownership from the person. And so I love that humble confidence to empower, to ask someone. When you ask someone, what do you think? They sit up straighter because they're like, holy cow, Robin cares about what I think. He values my opinion. So it completely changes the nature of the relationship when we empower others and when we include others.
Wow. Power-packed session. I can't believe it's been an hour. It feels like we just got started. I have so many more questions I can ask, but
I can stick around as long as you need me to. I'm good.
I appreciate that. I have launched our poll, and I would appreciate it if those of you that haven't completed the poll, if you'll take a moment, 5 questions, and complete our poll. It's real important for us to hear from you. We take your voice very seriously. So I would appreciate that, and I'll keep that open for a little bit longer. I do want to have a couple of quick announcements. I got a request from my dear friend Maravik at High Ridge, and she wanted me to let everybody know about the Christian Science new youth service course, a brand new program that you can visit www.comforts calling and apply for this paid service opportunity. So it's a youth core service opportunity. Go to the website. Again, Comforters Calling, and check that out. So wanted to let everybody pass that along to folks. Keep that poll coming. I'd appreciate it. How can you help? Well, you can help by becoming a career ally like our dear friend Travis here is, and every guest that's been on the Net Effect. We have lots of opportunities, and there are lots of people, particularly our students, that really need that mentoring, that help, particularly in these times. So be sure and go to the Career Alliance, www.abfcareeralliance.org, and become a career ally, or post a job if you have a job opportunity or any internships. Our students would greatly appreciate that, and we would love to have you be a part of our Career Alliance community. If you're interested in connecting with our dear friend Travis, all you got to do is go to the Career Alliance and click any one of the tabs, Job Seeker, Student, or Career Ally. And on the right-hand side, you'll see our Twitter feed. And you can click that link right there, and it'll take you right to Travis's Career Connection, and we'll get you fixed up so you can have a chance to have an informational interview with Travis or talk to him about what he does. So please take advantage of that great opportunity and buy this book. I bought it. I've read it all the way through. You can see all my little note tabs on there. A little tricky to see that. It's a great read. Really inspiring, practical ideas, particularly in these times, and highly, highly recommend it. Travis did a great job of that, man. I can't wait for volume 2.
Yes, I know. I'm sitting in that space right now of what part 2 is.
Well, whatever I got to do to help motivate you, brother, I'm on your team, okay?
I can feel it.
Good, good. So follow us on social media. Facebook at the Albert Baker Fund, Twitter at ABF_connections, Instagram at Albert Baker Fund, and LinkedIn ABF Career Alliance. We launched our Brotherly Love campaign some time ago, and we learned that our students needed our help. Thank you is the gratitude that's coming from them and what our students are expressing for these Brotherly Love scholarships. We're pleased to share that because of your generosity, the immediate need was met. Now that summer's arrived, we've begun receiving additional applications for the fall term. We're seeing first-time applications for financial assistance, and we expect the future need for about 80 students impacted by the recent events will need between $250 and $450 or $4,500 of additional funding. So please, if you have any thoughts, and we'd love to have their support today, if you just go to the Albert Baker Fund, Brotherly Love, you can help these Christian Science students that have been impacted by these recent events. So in closing, we've worked hard today, and we've been casting our net on the right side, thanks to Mr. Thomas here. And because he said some of these wonderful things, I think we can cast our nets in a direction that's going to yield lots of good catch. So thank you, sir, for your time today.
Wow, thank you, Robin. This has been a blast. We'd love to do it again in the future if you guys have a need. So thank you to you, the whole Albert Baker Fund, and to everyone who came on today. I'm really humbled by everyone for coming on today and the number of you. Really great. Oh, and real quick, my wife, she eavesdrops on me all the time, and she sent me.
Hello.
Yes, she's out on the porch, but she sent me the official title of that whole trapeze. It's The Parable of the Trapeze. So if you go to YouTube, it's The Parable of the Trapeze. Awesome stuff. Thanks, Robin.
Hey, man, it's a pleasure. Look forward to seeing you soon, my friend. Thanks again.
Absolutely. My pleasure. Have a great weekend, everybody.
See ya.